This is kind of an unusual way for a smartphone to arrive. Inside of here is a smartphone that, for me, was kind of highly anticipated because I liked the previous version. I liked what it represented. This is the new version of that. This is the Mi A3. It's the Mi A3 from Xiaomi. And the reason I've been following this series of smartphone is because, in my opinion, for the budget part of the smartphone marketplace, these guys give you a pixel-like experience. It's not about like the craziest spec list, but instead it's about what's on the other side, which is Android One, the Android One program, which is giving you a pixel-like OS experience, completely clean. We have the teardrop style notch, so if you hated the notch layout on the previous generation Pixel XL, I mean, this is a step in the right direction. It's not gonna win any awards for the screen to body ratio. This is a software play, and this is giving customers access to the pure vanilla, whichever terminology you choose to use, version of an Android experience, which I kind of wish more people got to do. You can pick this thing up on Amazon, according to Willie Do, for around $260. And the spec sheet, actually kind of impressive. I've got in front of me here, it's got a Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 series, so 665 up to 2 gigahertz, over 4,000 milliamp hours built in with 18 watt fast charging over USB Type-C. Slightly bigger than 6-inch AMOLED display. That's kind of a wild AMOLED display. Retail price around $260, stock Android. Wow, would you look at that? Once upon a time, that just wasn't gonna happen. A headphone jack, dedicated, traditional, classic. It looks like a 3-camera setup. Boom, right there, as you could tell, with a flash underneath. Now they claim it's an AI camera. Also, interesting, it looks like it's got an IR blaster. 48 megapixel ultra wide triple lens camera, 32 megapixel selfie camera. The fingerprint scanner, you're looking around and wondering, it's an in-display style. Now, Android One is not officially the same software as the Pixel. You may not see updates exactly as fast, but presumably and historically, you've seen updates to this OS faster than the skin stuff from the manufacturers, which needs to be patched in. The display is the first thing that you look at. This is maximum brightness. As I mentioned, it's AMOLED against my OnePlus 7 Pro AMOLED. Now, you could tell, I mean, the colors are popping. The aspect ratio here, 19.5 by 9. So it's a pretty narrow device, actually, comfortable to hold. It's like a more narrow iPhone 10. This could be really tempting for me to switch to because of the one-handed functionality. As you can see, it's so easy for me to reach across the entire device. Granted, there's not a lot of video that can fill this display, so you're gonna get black bars on it comparatively. Construction here, really nice. It's all solid. Glass, Gorilla Glass 5 actually, a metal construction otherwise. I'm gonna load up a Lou Later video real quick. Some interesting news here. Oh. Google Pixel sales doubled. Wow. Thanks to budget. Way better than I expected.
If you recall, Google came out and basically said, look, we're not happy with where the Pixel's at.
You know what? It's not the loudest I've heard, but I will say, I've done this dialogue test on the Lou Later videos for a while now, and at this price point, this is one of the better ones I've heard. It's not tinny. It's a full sound. I think it's only coming out of one speaker. Let me just double check that.
For upstart manufacturers might not have, like a pocket full of cash.
Yeah. So it's a mono speaker setup, but I'd rather have a mono speaker setup that sounds half decent than worry about
search engine.
Any type of stereo implementation. Most of those are fake anyways.
Something to do with ads?
They got algorithms, dude.
Now, the screen, as you notice, since it is that odd aspect ratio, when you crop into it, you cut off the top and bottom. So there is your default, as you can see. And then you want to fill the screen to utilize what you've got. And so you chop it a little bit. And again, this is a thing I think people are going to increasingly get used to as phone aspect ratios change in order to be great at doing multiple things. I think this trade-off is okay. Cameras got me a bit curious. The app to me looks more typical Xiaomi and less Google Pixel. And we'll snap a quick photo. It's at 1x zoom. Now I can tap that button there and go into 2x telephoto or all the way back out to 0.6 wide. We go from 0.6 there. We move into 1x here. And we go all the way to 2x. We focus here. The zoom looks pretty good. Standard looks pretty good. Wide, yeah, I don't feel like it's as sharp as the standard focal length. Although this is kind of a common effect of wide-angle lenses in general, especially small ones. My criteria for quality is a bit different for each of those inside of a smartphone, but nonetheless, it's softer on the 0.6 setting, in my opinion. Now, the AI functionality, I'm gonna turn that on. I wanna see what it does. Let's see if it can pick up the plant. And then when I frame up the plant, it goes to a leaf. And you can see the vibrance goes up ever so slightly, so I'll snap that photo now. It actually gripped somewhere in the middle there of the plant for sharpness, for the focus point. You could get a little bug photography on if you choose to, if that's your thing. The standard focal range, on the other hand, looks great. It's by far the best photo of the bunch. Selfie mode, they say it's got a lot of megapixels on the front camera. There we go. So no AI enabled, no HDR enabled. Bit blown out on the highlights. Let's try it with the HDR functionality turned on. Now you bring back some of the skin details, some of the pores there. I'm gonna zoom in even further. Look at that, you got pores, individual little beard hairs surviving in there, all the age. That's a lot of detail. This is sort of a showcase for two things, the contrast on the camera, but also the display quality. Being an OLED display, you can see how the black in the frame here just goes perfectly into the black of my shirt. Now, because it is running Android One, all of your Google apps are pre-installed by default. If I try to get rid of Me Community, can I uninstall it? I can. So even that's not a big deal. I'm glad that those aren't locked or anything. It is a true Android One experience. You can go and get rid of the things that you don't use. This device has quite a bit of wobble to it. I feel it's worth noting. A lot of them do this day and age, but I'm noticing this one a little more than I normally would. Maybe it's that camera hump. Okay, let's give this fingerprint scanner a quick try as well because it's not set up. It's not on here yet. So here we go. We're gonna press, vibrate, do the usual. So lock. Not the fastest. It's a little, there's a second there. There's a little extra with the animation. Part of me feels like when you're evaluating these fingerprint scanners, it's like your own interpretation of the animation is how you determine how fast it is. Yeah, it doesn't look like you can turn that animation off. Now, it's not the most offensive. I've seen way worse animations just from a aesthetic perspective. Like, it's pretty simple. But it takes a second to unlock. Now, they did say there's some kind of AI face unlock, so maybe you end up using that instead, though. With these optical-based front camera face unlocks, it's always a little sketchy of like how secure they actually are. Face unlock is less secure than a PIN, password, or pattern. Your devices might be unlocked with your photo as well as people or objects with similar appearance. So it tells you straight away, to be clear, not as secure. So just like other devices that are just using a front-facing camera, same situation. Now, the benefit of these is that they're super convenient. Like, I mean, look how fast it added my face. That's ridiculous. Can you see that, Jack? Open your eyes. Did you tell me to open my eyes? Interesting. Now, I'm going to try with my eyes closed, okay? Wait a second. What does it say? Open? Oh, interesting. So no eyes closed, no sleepy unlock. Nonetheless, it's like this kind of an amazing device here. Like what you're getting for the money, $260, Android One. I want to see Android One on more devices. Those immediately become options for me. Things I feel more comfortable recommending. A lot of people ask me, you're always talking about budget phones. Which one do you actually recommend? It's kind of hard, particularly for people around here, coming from iPhones, coming from Samsung. They have a vision of what a smartphone should be and looks like, and you don't want to recommend something that might throw them off too much. This, I feel like, you could put in a pocket, feel very comfy, pretty much straight away. It really does feel like a true Pixel alternative. Granted, not as fast, the whole thing, but it does feel like a valid budget Pixel alternative available for around $260. That's interesting.